Award season is here. We're talking my 10 Best Picture nomination predictions at this moment in time. I need your thoughts down below. What movies are making it on? What movie am I wrong about? What's getting in that ever so coveted 10th slot? Now, I've had these available over on the Awards Expert app, so if you see that, you know what I'm doing here. And I've had the same 10 for the last couple of weeks, so you may know what I'm going to say. This is your space and place to discuss below and tell me why I'm wrong, because I'm probably wrong. Also, drop a like if you want Best Actor, Actress, and Director in my next video, but only if you all want to see that. Now, I'm going to start with number one. This is the movie I feel most confident about getting into the Best Picture slot. Doesn't mean I think it's going to win. I'm just feeling the best about it right now. And I actually have a number one that's going to surprise some people. Now, both my 1 and 2, they're getting in no matter what. The hell could freeze over and they'd both make it in. But I'm going with The Brutalist. The reason I'm not going with Anora, even though it has checked every box, technically, Anora has checked more boxes than The Brutalist because Anora got into the NBR Best 10 of the year. Of course, so did Gladiator 2 and like Baby Girl, so it doesn't matter as much. But Anora is getting everything. The reason I believe The Brutalist is just a little higher in my brain is because, as every Best Picture favorite does, at some point, there's a little bit of that pushback. But for Anora, I'm already seeing that pushback. Like a few years ago, Everything Everywhere All at Once, I didn't see that pushback until it was about to win Best Picture. I'm already seeing it for Anora, and we've not even gotten into Critics' Choice, Golden Globes yet. We just have the nominations, and so this feels a little early for the Best Picture favorite this year. I think part of that is people are finally getting to see Anora. One, they're not seeing it on the big screen. Okay, two, they're seeing Anora on a smaller screen and maybe expecting it to be something it isn't. Maybe not knowing what Sean Baker is as a director, and I'm seeing disappointment. Now, what does this mean towards voting? I don't think it means anything. But you look at the themes of The Brutalist, which Anora has that as well. But The Brutalist, it's an immigrant coming to America. It's an American epic in the vein of There Will Be Blood, maybe more so The Master, but like Paul Thomas Anderson, Godfather 2 type of movie. And then you think of Anora, which, again, I love. It's in my top films of the year, but it doesn't quite have that spark. And I look at a film like The Brutalist, and I see it potentially playing really well at the BAFTAs, potentially playing really well in certain places that maybe Anora doesn't. And Anora has Mikey Madison. It also probably has a Best Supporting Actor nod. But then you look at The Brutalist, and it has all of those things. They both have director, but it has actor, supporting actress, supporting actor. I know Felicity Jones has been snubbed 1 or 2 times, but I think all of those people are getting in. And so even though that current screenplay edge, because I think Anora gets screenplay, should give it the nod over The Brutalist really hasn't even came out yet. Today, or yesterday, was the first day it came out limited, right? Then it goes wide, then more people get to see it. Maybe the buzz builds. The buzz hasn't had time to build for Brutalist just yet. Anora is available digitally, and maybe that's why it's getting a little bit of pushback now. But the buzz has come. It's not gone, but we aren't currently at the height of its powers like we were, whereas The Brutalist, and a complete unknown because it's a Christmas movie, even Nosferatu, which isn't on my list anywhere to be found because we know how they feel about most horror movies. We'll discuss the substance. I feel like that buzz has yet to hit its high. And maybe once it hits its high, maybe once it does really well at the BAFTAs, we start feeling a little more love towards The Brutalist. That's just a prediction. Anora would probably make more sense in my number one slot, but I have The Brutalist at number one. Also, it's just a freaking epic movie, man. That's bias. Shouldn't count towards my choice. Number two, we've already talked about Anora for all of the reasons that I said and more. I just feel like Anora gets in everywhere. This is like Sean Baker finally getting his due, right? He had The Florida Project, which I found to be amazing. That's still my favorite film of his. But that kind of come and went with the Oscars. A couple of his other movies, they come, they go, they make an impact, but they don't last. Anora is lasting. And maybe this current backlash that I'm seeing on X, so if you go on X, you'll see the negativity, along with everything else negative on there, but you'll see that, right? Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's getting that because it's such a clear front runner. And I believe that could absolutely be the case. And so I just wanted to go a little different with my 1 and 2 because I feel like everybody and their grandma's putting Anora at number 1. Anora's my 2. Number 3. And this is another example of a movie being at the height of its powers currently. That is Wicked. I just feel so good about Wicked getting in. Now, do I feel as strongly about Wicked winning as I do something like Conclave? No. But I feel like Wicked has maybe a better shot of getting in everywhere it's supposed to get in because this really has everything this type of movie needs to have. Not only could it slide into some unexpected categories, like I never would have pictured Wicked in there for screenplay while I was watching, or, I mean, it recently got a cinematography nod, and I'm like, should it get a cinematography nod? But it got it. And so, yeah, a great example of a movie at the height of its powers right now, because it's in theaters, it's making a splash, box office, people love it, fans love it, critics love it. It has all of the makings of a big-time movie. It almost has to get in the Best Picture lineup because you need a draw for the Academy Awards, and Wicked could be an example of a draw. And so because it has almost everything going for it, blockbuster-wise, critic-wise, awards-wise, with the acting noms, Cynthia and Ariana Grande, I mean, in my opinion, she's the front runner right now. Like, that's huge for a movie like this. All of those factors put it at number 3, the third most likely chance to get in. But, I mean, it's getting in. And another movie it's getting in, right? If Ralph Fiennes was a little higher on my list of people that could win that award, then I would put Conclave even higher. I still give Conclave a slight chance of an upset for Best Picture because there were times, you saw my Golden Globe predictions. I thought maybe that could be the movie that gets snubbed. I knew there would be a movie that was snubbed at the Golden Globes. That film was Sing Sing. We'll talk about that. But Conclave was one of those films I'm just like, does it have that mass? That's a pun. Does it have that mass appeal? And I personally find Conclave to be just a tiny bit overrated as a film. Also, you look at the preferential ballot system and how these nominations go in. Is Conclave a film that's going to be number 1 on a lot of people's lists? That's how I'm kind of approaching some of these that I'm putting further down because, everything in my brain is telling me that Conclave needs to be number 3 over Wicked, but Wicked just has everything going for it. This one's going to have the nominations. Don't get me wrong. Could have some surprising nominations, could have some screenplay noms, it could get editing, which I find to be a little like, all right, sure, but it could chalk all that up, add in Ralph Fiennes and how he's making a huge splash, a huge impact, and you have one that's going to be a major contender. But again, Fiennes is not up there in terms of people that could win it, and so that kind of wants to make me put him a little lower. And if I look at one of these front runners and think to myself, which one has the best chance at not doing what I think it's going to do? Because I think Wicked's going to do what I think it's going to do. I think The Brutalist and Anora are both going to hit really hard. Conclave, it will. It probably will. But what if it didn't? And out of these top 4, that's the one where I keep thinking to myself, but what if it didn't? And that's why I frankly have it at number 4. Number 5, this is going to shock a lot of people. I had The Substance in my 10 a month ago. Before anyone else had The Substance, I had The Substance in my 10. And people were calling me crazy. Okay, no one called me crazy. But people on Twitter were saying The Substance isn't getting a nom. It's just not happening. But Demi Moore kept getting in. It keeps happening. The Substance keeps making that splash in the places that it needs to make a splash, like a Golden Globes, like a Critics' Choice. Now, it didn't get AFI, and that's, you look at the history of AFI, and it has done a great job of predicting the movies getting in. Only a couple haven't gotten in, and so that one kind of scares me a little bit. But if anything's going to make a splash, you look at the themes of a movie like The Substance, and it just has everything you need it to have. But this hasn't included yet it being a horror movie. Like I said for Nosferatu, people aren't kind to the horror genre in the Academy. But I just feel like this movie is different. And because Margaret Qualley, because Demi Moore, because of the love for this movie across the board. Now, if it had something like editing in the bag, I would feel a lot more confident. I'd feel stronger. But We've had some director noms. We've had some really important nods to this getting a Best Picture nomination, and I love it so much, and I believe other people love it so much. It has that potential, and that's why I'm putting it in my 5 slot, because this is one of those films that, as crazy as good, but as crazy as it is making that splash necessary. So, yeah, it's getting in, folks. I feel really confident in that. Next up, look, I have been fairly negative. Okay, I've been really mean to Emilia Perez as a film because, frankly, I don't think it's a good movie. It's one of those movies that you're either going to love or really dislike/hate. I'm on the really dislike side. I don't hate it. I think there's some really good performances in here, and I don't mind that some of these performances, some of them, are getting talked about. But Emilia Perez is going 7 steps beyond that and getting nominated everywhere. You've got the performances. Saldana is up there in terms of the possibility of winning, even though I would still favor Ariana Grande. But then you look past that, and it's getting in other places, such as score and editing and a lot of song nominations and everywhere. If it gets in screenplay, I'm probably just going to lose faith in humanity. But this could be a movie that the industry loves. Capital L, capital O-V-E. It's a film that has that distinct possibility because it's felt like the industry has loved it. Certainly not a lot of fans. Talking about the general audience, it's more divisive on that front, but it has what it needs to have, and I would give it a bump over a movie like Dune, which is crazy to me. It's crazy that we're living in that world, but I feel more confident in Emilia Perez right now compared to Dune, because Dune, and I'm going to go ahead and transition into Dune, by the way, did not get a director's nomination at the Golden Globes. That, to me, is insane. Now, he did get in at the Critics' Choice, but so did 7 other directors. Like, if we wanted the Critics' Choice to clear things up for us, it did the opposite. It just made it even more muddled. And so I can't put Dune, the love for Dune, the passion for Dune that I still kind of feel. I think there's a lot of people who are very upset Dune is not getting in places it should be getting in. Like, it didn't get NBR with The Brutalist, but again, movies like Gladiator 2 got in. So I'm not going to pay as much attention to that. It got AFI. It got the movie Golden Globe nomination. Denis Villeneuve missed, which is huge, and that's why I'm going to put it a notch below Emilia Perez. But I also feel like Emilia Perez has the acting noms. Dune doesn't have that. Dune has a lot of technical noms, which is great, but I'm not even feeling as confident in some of those technical noms now. And so it's just been a bit of a downward trend for Dune Part 2. I don't think it's going to get the Two Towers treatment, right? But it's on that path more so than it is a path to win Best Picture. And I think that sucks because Dune Part 2 is better than Part 1, and it's easily one of the best movies of the year. But what do I know? Nothing, apparently. So it comes in at 7. Next up, I'm going Nickel Boys. I think this is very simple, a good argument for Nickel Boys. It's doing what I expected it to do. It's getting 4 or 5 noms at most of these places and most of these locations. A couple of surprise best directors, right? A couple of, nominations that maybe I didn't expect. Some, like an ingenue Ellis Taylor, who got snubbed, right? That's going to happen at a couple of these award shows. But it's done what it needed to do, and it's a movie that people have a lot of passion about. I feel like this is one of those movies that people are so passionate about that they are going to rank it very high on their preferential ballot list. It could get some number ones, like this is the best movie of the year. I've actually seen that. Now, I don't know how that's going to translate, or if that's going to translate to industry people. I'm talking more critics, and I'm sure a few casuals loving this movie, 1 or 2 on the year, and so that's how I think it's going to get in. It's going to have a lot of people that are super passionate, and then the other half who are just like, yeah, it's pretty good. We'll put it a little lower down. We may not put it on at all, but those super passionate people are going to be there. Hopefully more super passionate people than a movie like Emilia Perez, but I don't think that's the case. And because I don't think that's the case, it comes in lower on my list. But Nickel Boys is the last movie that I'm uber confident about. So 1 through 8, feeling great. Maybe 1 through 7. Let's go to heaven. I'm trying to rhyme. Nickel Boys on the end of that list, but still, I would say firmly on there. Number 9, not feeling as good, but I'm going A Complete unknown that has simply done what it has to do, right? It's not a super high meta score. It's not the craziest Rotten Tomatoes score, but neither was Bohemian Rhapsody. You know what I mean? It's this type of musical biopic, or really biopic in general, that doesn't have to do crazy numbers with critics. It doesn't have to have a 90 on Metacritic to do well, to get in, to be one of those. Because not only did it get NBR over Dune Part 2, it got AFI. It got in at Critics' Choice. It got in at Golden Globes. It has done everything. And yeah, James Mangold is one of those directors that people love. I love James Mangold. He's personally one of my favorite directors working right now. I'll reveal what I think about the film here in a couple of days. But a 71 Metascore, oh my God, man, a 71's not high enough. Yes, it is for a movie like this. And unless something crazy happens over the next couple of weeks, I don't think I'm going to change on a complete unknown because it has that path kind of laid out for it with everything it's achieved thus far. And this is all prior to it coming out, prior to it releasing. It even got a couple of more accolades compared to a movie like The Brutalist than I thought it was going to get. Now, it doesn't have all of these extras, right? It's not going to get in for Best Director, not going to be a ton of technical stuff here, but Norton's looking pretty good. Timothy Chalamet is one of the two that I believe could win, and people love musical biopics, and so I'm putting it one spot ahead of my number 10. And my number 10 is a film that I absolutely love. I have it ranked higher than a lot of these other movies. I still believe Sing Sing is one of the best movies of the year, absolutely. But the release strategy has always been strange and odd to me. I had so many people in my comments section of that video saying, Austin, I didn't even see Sing Sing because it wasn't playing near me. And when it was playing near me, it was for like 3 days. And when A24 does this, I get it. It's not one that's going to have mass appeal. It's not one that you can market it. I mean, you can market it as good as you want, but it's not going to make a ton of money at the box office, right? It's just one of those films. But when people see it, they tend to love it. When people see it, it's doing well with audiences, like almost an 8 on IMDb, a really good an amazing Letterboxd score. But then you have that 84 Metascore, and so that's 13 higher than a complete unknown. But it just hasn't done, Golden Globes, I was looking at Emilia Perez. I was looking at maybe Conclave. It was Sing Sing. And the obvious ones didn't get the nominations. Clarence Macklin has been snubbed a couple of times. I thought Macklin, for a long time, was one of those that I think should be in the conversation to win this award. Now, Coleman Domingo's getting in, absolutely. What about screenplay? Clarence Macklin, is he getting in? If Coleman Domingo and Clarence Macklin and everyone shows up, hell, if it gets ensemble at SAG, then I'm just, all right, we're in. We got our 10. We're feeling great. SAG's big. Screen Actors Guild is huge for this movie. If it gets ensemble, I'm feeling awesome about it. If it only gets Coleman Domingo, we're talking fringe top 10 already. I may start looking at some of these honorable mentions to replace it. So that's going to be one of the determining factors. And I'll do one final Oscar nominations predictions. We're just kind of going through them right now, talking about where we are. But yeah, that's big, and we're going to gauge our interest on what happens there. But we're also going to kind of look at these other movies and see, is A Real Pain going to get the Two Popes treatment, or is A Real Pain a more serious contender than maybe what it looks like at this moment? But Sing Sing in my final spot, in my 10, as disappointed as I was on Golden Globe nominations morning. Now let's talk about the honorable mentions, and I have 4 here that have a distinct possibility of getting in over a Sing Sing or even over a complete unknown, even though I don't think that's as possible to happen. Let's start with A Real Pain. I just compared it to the Two Popes, and that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. You've got the acting nom, and Kieran Culkin, maybe the best odds of winning it right now. That's big. It's really big for a movie like A Real Pain, and it's gotten on some of these other lists that are big as well, right? AFI, NBR. But missing out on the Critics' Choice 10. That was big. For me, I look at that snub and I'm like, okay, that's kind of a big deal because I've been feeling a little wishy-washy on A Real Pain regardless. And that's always been the movie for me that I just didn't feel like it was a lock, even though it was doing very well in these other places. And, Two Popes screaming back at me, some of these 10, 11 spots over the last couple of years that ended up not getting in. That's the feeling I've had about A Real Pain. It's a movie that a lot of people really like, but will the industry be super passionate about it? I go back to that preferential ballot system. I'm like, Is anybody going to put it at number one? I don't think so. I mean, possibly, but I just don't think people feel that strongly about it. And so for that reason, I have it right on the outside looking in. It's my number 11. It's got a really great chance, but not quite there. Next up is September 5. We can't not take this seriously. It's the most Oscar baity of the honorable mentions. It's the most, when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was a lock for an Oscar nomination. Then it came out. I liked it. I thought it was good. I feel like a lot of people like it. They think it's good. But I didn't think it would have a chance of doing what it's doing right now. I mean, it showed up at the Globes. It showed up at Critics' Choice. It was that movie where I'm like, oh, that's the one that got in? Okay, September. And that just really surprised me. But it's showing up in places and then not really showing up in any of the other categories. You know what I mean? It gets in for Best Picture. It's like, what? Where did that come from? You know what I mean? We just needed another movie to put on there. And so that's why I'm not feeling maybe as strongly about it. It's almost that the final movie to fill the spot type of movie. And that's how I've been feeling about September 5 and maybe about A Real Pain. And you could say that right now about Sing Sing, but I feel like Sing Sing has the quality, has the passion, has the type of story that's going to resonate with a lot of people, and it feels more like the movie we need right now, to be honest, compared to these other two, and that's why they're on the outside looking in. So they're my 11 and 12. My 13 and my 14... 14 I wouldn't take as seriously. We'll go ahead and talk about it. That's Challengers, right? Challengers is here. Good job. You got, 5 Critics' Choice nominees. You got in there Zendaya for Globes. You've been here. But I don't think a lot of people are taking it seriously for Best Picture, right? Even with Critics' Choice, it's like all of these things. I thought it could get in for Best Picture. I voted for it for Best Picture. It's one of my favorite movies of the year personally. But thank you so much for playing. Here's some other nominees. You're not getting in for Best Picture. That's how I felt about Challengers pretty much this whole time. It's never had a real chance for Best Picture. I would argue All We Imagine Is Light has a better chance because, first of all, the Golden Globe directing nom, that's big. That kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I'm sitting here like, could this be one of those like last-second international feature? We've got Emilia Perez, but could this slide in as well? International features have been big the last couple of years, getting in for one of those final 2 Best Picture slots. Could this be that? And it has some international wins and showing up in some international categories. Now, you look at some of these other international features, The Seed of the Sacred Fig. We got a directing win with the LA Film Critics, but it didn't get that. I believe All We Imagine Is Light got that movie win, whereas it didn't get the director's win. And so, yeah, a couple of films in there to fill one of these last 2 slots. But I'm going All We Imagine Is Light because that directing nomination kind of like caught me off guard, made me sit back just a second and think about it. Do I think it has a remote chance compared to like a Complete Unknown? No, but that final spot's going to be tough, folks. And so that's kind of where my head's at right now in late December. As we approach the end of the year, things could change absolutely. And we'll have a final awards predictions where I give you everything. But the next video I want to do is focus on the acting categories. I want to focus on actor, supporting actor, actress, director, all of those really important secondary nominations. And so if you want to see that, if you want me to get that out to you the next couple of days, drop that like down below. We'll definitely do it. And stay tuned because this is a fun time of the year. Glad I could talk through all of these semi-obvious nominations, but those final 2 spots, they're going to be interesting. Thanks so much for watching. See you in my next video.